Hey, everybody. This is Brett from Go Folk Yourself podcast. Just as a warning for the little ears in the room, this podcast is rated E for explicit. That means we'll be saying things like fudge and shnikes. And welcome back to the latest and greatest installment of Go Folk Yourself podcast, an American podcast. This week, we're going to be doing a little bit of a side rail episode. We've got a deep folking coming out for you guys, and this is the episode that all of our loving and adoring fans wanted but never asked for. If you yourself have been listening to our show and thought, man, those Brett and Nick episodes about Sabrina were phenomenal, well, guess what? Have we got a treat for you, don't we, Nick?
We sure do. This is absolutely the Viagra you needed for your nostalgia boner.
Oh, yeah. We're going full nostalgia this week, guys. So what we're going to be talking about is Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Wait a minute, like the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
1996's very own Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
That's right, guys. Put on your hypercolor t-shirts because we're diving right in.
We are tie-dyeing right in, and we're velvet chokering our way and wrapping the flannel around our waist.
We don't care. Nirvana's playing.
That's
You're ready.
right. Yeah, we listened to it before he was dead, all right? So that makes us cool. Yeah, that's right, guys. So you probably thought, man, those Sabrina episodes were good. This episode is titled Sabrina as well. You're thinking, man, Brett and Nick are going to go into season 2, Sabrina, their chilling adventures thereof. But no, we are in fact going back in time to talk to you about the differences between Sabrina the Teenage Witch and the chilling adventures of Sabrina. How does that sound, audience?
We're glad you liked it because we did too.
That's right. Rhetorical question on deaf ears to the internet. That's how you know this is good talk radio.
This is going to be just a magical moment, if you'll pardon the pun.
There's going to be a lot of magic and a lot of opinions. And man, I can't wait to dive into this. So before we get into the meat and bones of this discussion, and we're hopefully gonna shred this like a fine pernil.
A solid culinary reference.
Thank you. I was hoping maybe you could tell our audience a little bit about Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Like I know we dropped it came out in '96, but what else was on the air in '96?
So we're going to go way back and start talking about some real classic shows. And I think if we're being honest, like, this is probably one of the pieces of our research that really took me by most surprise. Like, I kind of had a good feeling. I was like, yeah, what was I watching in 96? But I don't think I got quite how impactful some of these were and like where this really was in the cultural zeitgeist, if you will.
All right. So what do we got?
So I think the one that stunned me the most to hear was Everybody Loves Raymond.
That came out in 1996.
1996.
That's crazy.
So the same exact year, you have the epitome of TV dad was sharing the airwaves with Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Raymond.
Raymond, your wife is being mean to me again. Ma says come home. Raymond.
Yeah, you guys thought we forgot about the Brad Garrett impression.
Never.
We will never forget about that.
Brad Garrett lives in all of us. And he doesn't pay rent.
He doesn't have to.
Raymond, I lost my job. I can't pay rent.
Please, let me live with you and Mom and Dad. Ma's going to be real mad, Raymond.
You ate all the pasta for me? Oh, boy. That's a little bit of an Eeyore, isn't it?
A little bit.
Never
like
thought
a really
about it.
Kind of a depressing take on Brad Garrett.
This is the only TV show people watched. So, also in 96, we have Third Rock from the Sun, a sitcom that I'd argue, not that it didn't age well, just definitely didn't have the legs of some of these other classic sitcoms.
No, I remember that being very popular, though, when that was on, and it did create the Trinity Killer, so I'm glad
That's
that we
true.
got that.
At least we got something positive out of it.
You're welcome, John Lithgow. Always going to remember you for the high watermark of your career.
Spin City was out at the
Really?
same time. It really was.
Weird.
Actually lasted 1 year fewer than Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
So I guess who was more popular, Spin City?
It's magic. Let's be
Yeah.
real. And then following along the exact same footprint of time, which this one really shocked me. Like Dragon Ball Z ran 1996 to 2003. So the
Weird.
exact same years as this. And I don't know. I don't think I would have ever even let that cross my mind.
I would have never considered that they were A, on the air at the same time, or B, that they would have the exact same runway.
Especially since I watched both of them
Right.
during all of those years.
Right.
Still didn't occur to me that they happened at the same time.
I remember watching that as a child and thinking that it was much older than it actually was for some reason.
Right? I think it had a lot of those, and we're going to dive into this, but I think the humor style and just like the way it's shot and everything, like it had a lot of late 80s, early 90s kind of sitcom humor.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dragon Ball Z was just so different than anything else we were watching at the time.
True.
So I
Yeah.
think that's what made them feel separate.
True. And that was probably the first like major anime that I think I was exposed to ever.
Yeah.
So it was probably something I wasn't used to as well.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Any other good TV shows on it this time? I know Friends is on the air, but that came out like what, a year or two before?
Yep, Friends came out 2 years before and
Okay.
then lasted just one extra year after Sabrina. But that was, I mean, that's another one. Just like the fact that there's only really 3 years extra for Friends, arguably the most impactful
Right.
sitcom ever.
Right.
Whether, like it or not, that's a different story. But I mean, as far as cultural impact, Friends is it.
Yeah, that's like the high watermark 90s sitcom right there. And being that it's only 3 seasons longer,
Mm-hmm.
that should tell you something about the staying power of Sabrina the Teenage Witch
She's
in
got it.
American pop culture. She does. She's
got
that girl.
Je ne sais quoi.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I like about the Sabrina universe is all of the characters in there are very enjoyable. Unlike the television show Friends, which has Ross Geller, perhaps the worst character ever created for television.
Well, I just realized we're going to do a Friends deep folking, so stay tuned for that.
That's really my only negative opinion towards Friends is the inclusion of Ross Geller.
The
who was-
strongest of the friends who should clearly just eat the other.
Yes. In my most recent Friends rewatch, I have discovered that whereas in the past I used to really like Ross Geller and think, man, I wish I was cool like Ross. He's a paleontologist. That's awesome. Very toxic and horrible person. Like,
We'll get into that during
yeah,
the
that's a whole
deep
different thing. So, any other good TV shows on it this time?
I think those are really
The big ones?
the hallmarks, yeah.
Okay. Well, here, let's do a quick run of movies that came out in 96 to really set the tone here.
Really time warp you.
Right. Independence Day starring Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum.
That's just complete cognitive dissonance. I got nothing. It's
19
static when I think about that.
145 minutes of pure American thrills. Scream starring Drew Barrymore.
What?
Yep. 1996.
Get out.
First major 90s slasher film. Like really playing with the rules of horror there.
Man.
Matilda starring Danny DeVito.
And only Danny DeVito.
As every character in the movie Matilda.
I'm a magic girl. Get out of here.
Oh, Matilda, you're acting real weird. I'm going to grab you by your pigtails and throw you. Fargo with Steve Buscemi, 96. Romeo plus Juliet, the surreal remake. Well, not really a remake. I guess it's just a modern
make at that point.
interpretation of Romeo and Juliet.
A new make.
From Dusk Till Dawn, featuring Sex Machine, greatest side character of all
Wild.
in any movie, and the original Mission Impossible.
That is probably the weirdest. Like,
Right?
the others, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess they were nice. But, like, Mission Impossible, now after having, 30 movies,
Right.
is at the same time as
Sabrina. Yeah.
So,
and
like, time just doesn't make sense. It's not a thing anymore.
exactly. It never did. That's because the world ended in 2012 and we're in the a different simulation.
Ronald Reagan replaced all the birds with cameras, and the birds work for the bourgeoisie.
Everybody knows that. And that has always been the case. Last two, one being funny, the second one being an actually really interesting parallel here. The Rock starring Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, 96 as well.
As opposed to the soon-to-be-released movie Nick Cage starring The Rock.
Yes, exactly, where he plays Nick Cage
Now I want to watch that movie.
in an only high-key, one-stage light melodrama one-man show for 2.5 hours.
He's playing Nick Cage specifically when he started screen testing for Superman.
Yeah.
That they ended up scrapping.
But the best 1996 movie out of all of these that I think really aligns with this,
Hercules.
The Craft.
Ooh,
The
yeah.
Craft 1996. Everybody's favorite introduction to magic and witchcraft in the late 90s. Or
Man.
mid-90s, rather.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Wild.
So, Sabrina, you really hit the nail on the head with coming out in the same year as The Craft. I have strong feelings that led to its longevity because of the popularity of The Craft and also knowing that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is to come. So,
Yeah, that really does bring up an interesting point about timing. Like, is this where we see the most like comfortability around the occult and just the the supernatural kind of things? Because I mean, hell, Supernatural probably came out around this time because it's been on TV forever. So I wonder if this was like a watershed moment for that style of entertainment.
probably. I mean, it seemed to be out of excluding the present day where we have a lot of occult in the media. This kind of fell in at about the exact same time where a lot of occult themed things were becoming popular. And so like mid 90s, having a major network air a show with arguably very clearly occult themes.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting that became such a popular and like long running series. I mean, 7 seasons is a lot of content.
Especially for what I think most people would probably equate it now to a CW TV show.
Pretty much,
You know,
yeah.
like we'd think of it like a Riverdale or like,
Right.
I mean, Sabrina on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
So what brought it to that kind of prominence? Because like I don't know anybody our age that doesn't have even at least a passing knowledge or a passing reference to Sabrina.
Right, of course. And I mean, you've got the comic book series, obviously, spin off from Archie. So Sabrina has existed in American pop culture for quite a while.
I mean, at least the mid to late 60s.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a long running character. But then to have like a really kind of out of nowhere resurgence, probably capitalizing on the occult popularity of 1996 with a family friendly occult themed show. That's
spot
not
on.
spooky, that's not scary or really too far out there, but it's because it's obviously very much a feel-good show. Although there are some pretty horrifying consequences in it.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of... So, like, we made the joke when it came to Chilling Adventures where it was always Sabrina no, and she said Sabrina yes, and then disastrous consequences.
Yes, absolutely.
But she didn't feel like she learned from them.
Right.
She just, like, I still feel like even in the Netflix series, she's kind of like, well, it works out, so whatever. Whereas this Sabrina is very much like, nobody really says Sabrina no. They just kind of say, like, here's the boundaries. And she
Right.
says, what if I push them?
Yeah.
And then things go wrong, and she goes, okay, I've actually learned something. Like, I would almost argue she has more character development than Sabrina in an odd way.
That's very funny. Looking at it, obviously we're going to be comparing and contrasting the original versus the current iteration here. And I think that is a very valid point because obviously, just to give you guys some background information, Nick and I rewatched the first 5 episodes of this to take notes on them.
Which means we have a whole lot more content if you guys like this.
Exactly. And because we were really wanting to do like a dive in on what are the differences between the two. So we had to have a good baseline. We figured a good solid hour and a half worth of episodes would give us enough to contrast it without watching the entirety of the whole fucking 7 seasons.
Because we did the math and we said, well, we could watch the whole thing in,
Right.
8.8
8.8 hours,
Yeah.
in case you guys were curious.
8.8 hours, 4.4 per day if you
Right.
want to like sleep or something in the middle.
So we went with a solid first 5, which got us to the Halloween episode, which was, in the current iteration of Sabrina, huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
So we figured that would be a good stopping point, at least for first, to see how much we wanted to actually dive into this. And I think we actually got a lot of good content
I think so, too.
out of this.
It was really surprising to me. Like, when you think of a 22-minute, serialized TV show, you're kind of
Right.
like, all right, whatever. You have a little bit of exposition, a little bit of climax, and then a little bit of resolution. You're like,
Right.
okay, good. I feel fine. Tomorrow's going to be the same, and nothing is better or worse than it was when we got here.
Yep.
And I don't think we found that a lot. Like there's growth and like things happen and stay there.
And there's continuity to it as well, which in a lot of the like 90s sitcom world, there's little themes of continuity.
Yeah.
Like, like certain relationships will continue from one episode to another, but largely things stay the same in like an area of Arrested Development. But
let's talk about Arrested Development in a different episode.
Yeah, right. But in Sabrina, there is a definite continuity and a continuing expanding world building that is happening in it, which I think is very interesting. Again, in the current iteration, you do have that character development as well, and the expansion of the world outside of Greendale, but not
almost like a Riverdale universe.
Yeah, exactly. But the new Chilling Adventures of Sabrina feels like a spooky, ooky version of Riverdale.
Yeah,
with way more Satan.
Oh, for sure.
Which is great. Welcome addition. For those of you guys
Praise
that are
him.
listening that haven't watched the original, no Satan in this one. So
yeah, you're right.
0 out of 6 horns for that.
0 out of 666 thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely no Prince of Lies or Lord of Darkness. So really disappointing, guys. Get with it. Mainstream television of 1996.
I'm going to put a letter in my time machine back to the FTC guy and be like, what are you doing?
What's going on here?
Come on, FCC, not FTC.
Yeah, I was wondering
both
what
of them.
The Trade Commission was going to
tell the Trade Commissioner, please reach out to your friend at the FCC and tell him more Satan, please.
That's what the people want. Okay.
I will gladly buy more Satan if he puts it on TV.
So
there's our link.
You've got obviously much different formatted storytelling between the Sabrina the Teenage Witch and the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. 90s sitcom formula, which, as you just described, 22 minutes. Obviously, intro, rising action, thing that happens, moralizing lesson, end.
Thing that happens is my favorite part.
Yep. And then the current storytelling, build up spooky dread character exposition. Multiple concurrent things are happening.
Yeah.
No real moralizing lesson, no lessons learned, end.
Cut to Hilda, make a cookie, episode over. Continue tomorrow.
But yet I'm still entranced and need more and more content of this.
Just pump it into my veins.
Yeah, just give it right to me.
Whichever series, I don't care.
Do you want to talk about the characters and the differences real quick?
I think we can get into that.
So obviously Sabrina is the titular character, played by Melissa Joan Hart, 90s heartthrob from Clarissa Explains It All.
I was looking at my wife last night as we were watching it, and I was like, I don't know what it was. She was the epitome of my 90s crush. It was like her and Kelly Kapowski always right at the top.
Totally get that. Kelly Kapowski was mine, but Melissa Joan Hart, solid choice for that. I think that as far as childhood crushes go, you could go no better than her. She's wholesome and perfect.
There was like a little bit of Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, but she was a little too damsel-y for me. Sabrina can hold her own.
Yeah, that's true. Sabrina can hold her own. And also, Pink Ranger went a little porny later in life.
Yeah, she did.
Not shaming that. Good on you, girl.
Get it.
Get it. Sex work is legit work, everybody.
Yes,
Don't downplay it.
It's hard work.
Exactly. I wouldn't want to do it.
Pun intended, but also not needed.
I would not want to do it, but that does not invalidate it. We're very
I don't want to be a
inclusive
garbage
here.
Man either. Not that they're the same thing,
It's just
but they're
because-
just jobs I don't want. I'm not qualified for either.
Exactly. I can't do 49 pounds of heavy lifting. So I don't meet the base qualifications of either job.
There we go.
So Sabrina Spellman, same name, obviously. She is, what is your take on original Sabrina versus current Sabrina?
So just if we're looking at it from, we'll start like really high level, like original Sabrina, very girl next door, like even from the very first episode, like she learns she's a witch and she's kind of just like, okay, whatever. Like she has no idea beforehand. So she's getting into it. She's trying to find out a little bit about herself.
Exactly.
She's in a new school. You know, she's like, my dad and mom are away, so I'm living with my aunts. Like it is very much just baseline normal blonde girl at a new school. And then we have new Sabrina, who's very feisty right out of the gate.
Right.
Like she's got a really strong personality, and you can tell like she's not gonna put up with a lot of shit. Like she's gonna be her. You know, she's still like a blonde girl, pretty cute, like girl next door kind of thing, but it's different with her. Like you can tell that this is not just, you know, the kind of shy person who Sabrina originally was. Like, she's just not. And
What-
I'm kind of into it.
What I noticed in this rewatch and then rethinking about the whole, old versus new,
Mhm.
Sabrina from the original version is, you can tell, kind of withdrawn,
Mhm.
but comes into her own with the magic powers.
Oh, for sure.
The Sabrina of the Chilling Adventures is already in her own, I think,
Yeah,
and is enhanced by the magic powers.
that's a really good
But
way to put it.
would still make, I think, a lot of the same decisions if she did not have them. Like, I think it would still, like, Sabrina the Teenage Witch without the magic powers may have just been kind of a average apple pie slice Americana show from the 90s
Yeah.
without magic powers. Chilling Adventures would be very strong-headed, like, not averse to conflict.
Yeah, we're looking
Like-
at basically just a feminist TV show minus
Yeah.
the magic.
Exactly. Versus both, I think, do show very strong usage of women characters in it. And I think that both of them are good and solid women characters in popular media. So
I would agree.
I think that Kiernan Shipka's iteration of it, very strong-willed, feisty, very smart, very good at problem solving. I think the problem solving is one of the only things that really connects these two together, because
Yeah.
they do have a very good usage of creative problem solving in universe.
hmm
I do think that Melissa Joan Hart's iteration of it is a much more likable Sabrina.
For sure.
But I think that as she comes more into her own, you do see that confidence grow inside of her, where she becomes on, like, kind of the same level that Kiernan Shipka starts at with it.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting take on it. I think that's probably spot on, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that the non-aversion to conflict version of Sabrina played by Kiernan is probably done for expediency sake, not knowing how long running legs the show has.
That's true.
So you're never really, like, in the 90s, you can pretty much be guaranteed it's going to have like 5 or 6 seasons.
Right.
But nowadays, 2 and you're done if you're not.
Especially for a Netflix series. Like,
Yeah,
I think they knew that they were taking a really hard stance. Like,
exactly.
I think they could still get away with, like, you see kind of like little snippets of it in the intro and everything to Chilling Adventures, where they show
Right.
like the little clips of the comic.
Yeah,
They could have made a comic Sabrina and it probably would have done well.
right.
But I think after like the gritty DC take on
Yeah,
Riverdale, that they needed to do Chilling Adventures to keep up with it.
right.
So I think they were like, yes, this has got to keep up with it, but the themes themselves, like, I don't think we've ever had another TV show in as mainstream a way, in as forward of a platform as Netflix,
Right.
that has focused on the occult and on Satanism and things like that in such a loud way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Really, the only thing that I think of as somebody that is obviously into the occult and like popular occultism and things like that in the media that really captured it in this way was actually The Craft in 1996.
Yeah.
And if not The Craft in modern, zeitgeist cultural memory, American Horror Story Coven was another
yeah.
like immediate attention grabbing, putting the occult foot forward. Whereas in the 90s, of course, you had Sabrina and you also had Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
Our current generation has, and also The Craft,
Right.
our current generation has Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and Coven, and trying to think of another like good one off the top of my head that would be like a nice parallel to that, but there isn't really like a
Not
solid.
quite to say, maybe Supernatural,
maybe,
but
yeah.
even that's just, it's kind of different.
Yeah, Supernatural seems to be more like, to me, kind of on par with like X-Files.
Yeah.
But
Like a fringy style
yeah,
show.
like Fringe. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't.
And I
It's
think
not
that's
like,
even what's interesting. Like when I think of Coven, I know like it had a lot of appeal in our friend group, like the kind of people that would normally watch it. But I'm wondering if there's a ton of crossover between the CW style Sabrina TV watcher and somebody who's going to go watch Coven, whereas Buffy and Sabrina, like they coexisted on similar style networks,
right.
similar time slots. Like these are the kind of
Probably
things I
targeting
remember.
same age range
Yeah.
too, if I had to guess. Maybe
I would
Buffy
say
a little
so.
bit more mature, obviously.
Like high school
but
versus
high school.
middle school, high school.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think the target audience of the original Sabrina series is probably like 8th to
Probably 8th to 10th grade.
Probably. Yeah.
At least to like get them started.
Right. And then as the characters grow and mature, you can obviously transition the audience up as you need to with that. Yeah. Interesting. Good discussion, by the way.
Thank you.
Moving on to some of the other characters.
Can we get into Salem?
Absolutely. Salem, what do you think about Salem on original?
Absolutely, hands down, my favorite character of the show.
Very funny.
I don't know what it was, but that cat was a scene stealer every time.
Yeah, every time that Salem is on screen, you're immediately wondering, what is this damn puppet going to say?
Like, I like when they use the real cat.
Yeah.
I think it's just funnier when they're dubbing that one over.
Right.
But you know when it's Puppet Salem, like, it's going to be hilarious because they're just more expressive.
Right, and he can do a sight gag, which is a large part of the humor of Salem. It's like whatever uncharacteristic cat thing he is currently doing.
Like looking into a crystal ball or something.
I'm also huge fan of original Salem. Obviously, way more of a character in Sabrina the Teenage Witch because he does have speaking roles.
Yeah.
Which and he is one of the main characters in the Spellman household, as opposed to more of a, not an accessory, but background type character.
I mean, honestly, he really is top billed cast in the show. He's the only character on the show that has as many episodes as Melissa Joan Hart.
Oh, so he's in like every episode.
Every single episode. All 163 episodes have Sabrina and Salem. And then Hilda and Zelda are only in 142 and 141 episodes, respectively.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, there's essentially an entire season of no Hilda Zelda.
Wow. That's a really interesting look at that. And good for who's the voice actor that did him?
Nick Bouquet.
I have no
played
idea.
Salem Saberhagen.
Huh. Good for Nick Bouquet.
Great job. You got some money.
Yeah, and maybe some syndication money afterwards. And I like the in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Salem is more of a protector guardian spirit.
Yeah, like straight up and down the familiar.
Yeah, like he plays the role of the familiar exclusively and is used as like an augment to her powers and as a protector spirit towards her. And now he does a lot of pivotal things.
Oh, for sure.
In the show, but he does not have the wit and charm of the original Salem.
The pieces of Salem that we like the most from the original series are Ambrose and Chilling Adventures.
Exactly.
Like, straight up and down.
Yeah, because there's no analog to Ambrose in the extended Spellman family that we've seen so far. Granted, we've watched the first half, like a good chunk of the first season of it. But Ambrose, if you're a current watcher, is absent in this, but is replaced by, but is not really replaced by, because I guess Ambrose technically replaced Salem.
Yeah, because like even in the original series, Salem has close enough to the same thing with him. He's like trying to become the Emperor of Earth, I think he called it.
And he's punished by being on house arrest in the form of a cat.
As opposed to Ambrose, who wanted to...
He wanted to bomb the Vatican.
Yeah, he wanted to blow up the Vatican. So they're like, you can't do that. You're on house arrest, but you still get to be Ambrose.
Right.
So that was probably the biggest divergence just among the main characters.
Right. But one of the things about Sabrina the Teenage Witch is Salem plays kind of the trickster role that Ambrose plays to her. Like whenever she's asking about a specific spell, he's not afraid to tell her how to do it, but he doesn't often tell her the consequences of doing it.
Very much like almost a monkey's paw in this situation.
Exactly. Like he'll let her, he's exists as a way of Sabrina testing her boundaries in the world and also learning how to fail.
Yeah.
Because Ambrose is there and plays that similar role in the Chilling Adventures by being the one that'll show her how the ritual works. But maybe he doesn't go into the unforeseen consequences side of it, even though he's been around long enough to know what they are.
Oh, he knows all day long what can go wrong.
Right.
But I think you're right. It really is. He's probably the biggest catalyst, Sabrina or Salem in the original and Ambrose now. Both of them are the biggest catalyst of Sabrina's growth personally. Yeah,
exactly, because they both employ a similar teaching style, which is if you want to become a witch, you have to know how to be a witch. You can't learn it from a book.
Yeah.
You learn
by doing.
You learn by doing, and you learn by failing. And Sabrina, Melissa Joan Hart's iteration often takes those lessons to Melissa Joan Hart.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
That was
I like
bad.
that a lot. It took me a second to
Yeah, I
like,
know.
because I was like, yeah, it does. And
For those of
I
you
see what
that
he
aren't
did.
in the room recording this with us, there was a moment of him nodding and then immediately realizing that was a terrible pun.
I remember nodding and then hearing whack in the
Whack.
back of my head.
So she takes it to heart and doesn't do whatever that thing was again. Whereas Kieran Shipka's is like, yeah, well, I know bad's gonna happen,
But I can go extra to it.
but I can fix it, and then it doesn't go right.
I think if we're gonna look at if we were to map these to the hero's journey,
Right,
both Sabrina's, Phil obviously the hero,
right,
but Melissa Joan Hart Sabrina is the reluctant protagonist.
right,
Whereas, especially in the very beginning, eventually she grows into it, but still she's kind of like she's going along and she's
Right.
like, I'm new, I'm learning, let's see what's here. Whereas Kiernan Shipka becomes more the chosen one style.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
she's like, I understand what I am, I understand what's going on, and I know what I have to do. Let me get into some shit and see what happens.
Right, and because she's really not afraid to push. Neither characters are actually afraid to push boundaries.
No, not at all.
But one learns from it, and one just keeps pushing forward.
Yeah.
Because it's really the only thing that she can do.
Yeah, especially with the kind of consequences that she's getting to.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't have a choice.
Exactly.
So if we have them as the heroes kind of starting it out,
Right.
as we're going next to the supernatural aid, that's where Salem Ambrose comes
Yep,
in.
Exactly.
Obviously, the two of them being the case in Chilling Adventures
Right.
and just Salem in the original one. Both of them are that catalyst to say, you know what you need to do, you have these abilities, here's how you're going to really
Right.
harness them, the Obi-Wan Kenobi for them.
Exactly. And then they have their mentors, both of them, and their aunts.
Yep.
So you have obviously Hilda and Zelda Spellman. In the original series, I'm not sure if they are sisters.
Yes.
Are they sisters?
Yep.
Okay, but one of them has another sister, or maybe it's a cousin. I'm talking about Marigold here.
I think it's a cousin.
Okay, it must be one of their
Yeah.
cousins. Yeah, that because I guess that's possible. I'm not really sure how families work.
Yeah, they don't really dive too
Yeah.
much in depth with it. They're just like, just go with it.
Just whatever. She's the Sackville Baggins cousin who everybody hates.
The Shelbyville.
Yeah, the
Spellman.
Shelbyvilles. So you have Hilda and Zelda Spellman, related to again Edward and Diana Spellman.
Yep.
And this iteration of it, in the original, of course, you have kind of an interesting choice of how they interact with Sabrina. It's very different feeling than the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
I don't think you can have Sabrina without these two, nor
Right.
can you really split them up. Like,
No,
as
no,
much
they
as I'd
can't
love
be.
to say, let's talk about Hilda, then let's talk about Zelda, we're always going to have to look at them through the lens of Hilda Zelda.
Yeah, because when there's very rarely a case where they're not both on screen at the same time.
Or if they are, it's got something to do with the other one.
Exactly. Like their stories are so intertwined because they've been together for hundreds of years
Yeah.
that they obviously can't not coexist together.
Mhm.
So I think it's easier to talk about them as a pairing rather than as individuals.
I would agree.
So
The mac and cheese. You're not like,
yeah.
well, the macaroni's good, but the cheese isn't it. Like, they're a unit.
Exactly, an absolute unit. So, what are your takeaways from original Hilda Zelda?
So, original Hilda Zelda feels like home to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so strange to think of it that way. A TV show that I didn't think I had much. I didn't think when I first rewatched it, because like I rewatched it with my wife like a couple months ago. We got
Right.
in it, watched like the first season, 2 seasons, whatever, and then rewatched the episodes last night as we were
Yeah.
talking about it. So I didn't think I had as much of a connection to them as I did, and as much like comfort as I felt rewatching it.
yeah,
Original Hilda Zelda felt so much more familial almost.
oh, absolutely. I kind of had that same feeling about it while I was rewatching it because I didn't realize that I had really any like major nostalgia connection to this show because I didn't really watch a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
It was one of those shows that was often on, but in the background for
Right.
me when I was younger. And getting a chance to rewatch it now, I really, really enjoy the Hilda Zelda of the original because they're fantastic characters, and their way that they take care of Sabrina is just like an unconditional love
Yep.
and wanting to make sure that everything goes right for her.
Oh, hardcore agree.
Yeah, and it's a very wholesome familial setup that they have, and having them both there as kind of her mentors in both the non-magical and magical world.
Mhm.
Obviously, you know that she's going to be okay because she has those two,
Right.
because they are truly her guardians and mentors in here as well.
Yeah.
And in the Chilling Adventures, it's
So
very
different.
It's so different.
Yeah.
They fill the same role.
Yep.
Like they are there as guardians, they're there as guides and mentors as well. But they're, I think, very. I hate to say this, but they're more of a Flanderized version
Yeah,
of
really.
Hilda and Zelda. And for those listeners that don't know what that term means, it's kind of a TV trope,
We need like a little jingle.
Yeah.
TV trope time.
which refers to the Ned Flanders character on The Simpsons, which
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning is more of a nuanced character, but as somebody that's like a strong father figure, friend, and neighbor who just also happens to be very religious,
Yeah.
who by the end of the series is "Heidily ho, neighborino," like boiled down to the very like essence.
Like howdly
stupid-
doodly, we're going to church.
Yeah,
You're just like-
exactly.
it becomes to be so much. It's almost a parody of itself.
Exactly. And rewatching the original and looking at the new, that's kind of how I felt about it. Now, granted, I still fucking love Hilda and Zelda Spellman
for
and the Chilling
sure.
Adventures for completely different reasons.
Especially in the second half of the season.
Oh, for sure, because you get a lot more character development out of them. But
Mm-hmm.
like if only your experience is Chilling Adventures, you're going to be very confused as to how they got there from the original,
Mm-hmm.
because they're very different. Like Hilda in the original embodies some aspects of Zelda in the new because she's non-conflict averse. Like she is like really about conflict. Zelda, on the other hand, is
Very-
very reserved
Yeah, very reserved.
and like pulled back. So in the Chilling Adventures, that kind of flips, but they kept a lot of the same character traits except for that.
It's strange. Like we'll talk about Hilda first then. Hilda in the original series she's the mom who wasn't afraid to say like, fuck it, go try it.
Yeah, go have fun.
Yeah,
whatever.
she's like, whatever. I need to lose a couple pounds. Like she's a little bit Facebook mom.
Yeah, she's kind of like fun mom.
Yeah, she's fun mom. Like you're going to her house, so like you're gonna have chicken tendies for dinner, but like I might be able to have a beer.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if I'm good.
We'll see.
And then Zelda is more like reserved aunt.
Straight up and down bookworm.
Yeah, like bookworm, like the aunt that comes around over holidays that you don't really have a lot of relationship with, but offers fucking killer career advice.
Yeah.
So she comes across as very professional,
Very
calm,
warm.
cool, collected. Still warm. She's not a cold character.
No, not at all. Like in Chilling Adventures, I don't nearly enjoy as many Zelda moments as I do in the original.
Right.
I like them for different reasons. They're great for plot moments and it's
Right.
interesting character, but I don't have anywhere near that same connection as I did to Zelda in the original series.
I agree with that. And because you don't get that because the Zelda character in Chilling Adventures it has a barrier put up from being vulnerable.
Yep.
That doesn't get broken down until the very end of season 1, season 2. And even then it's still there, but you become it actually probably takes a rewatch of Chilling Adventures to actually get that connection with her
I'll agree.
after you see the barrier come down,
Yep.
and then you can look back at past actions. And I think that's what gives that show staying power.
Yeah.
Is
It's rewatchable.
yeah, it's highly rewatchable, and you get something new every time.
Like original Sabrina, so Teenage Witch is rewatchable for fun. Like,
Exactly.
You're gonna get good stuff out of it. Haha, a little bit of magic. And we're gonna get into the magic in a second. But, that one is rewatchable for the fun aspects and it's an easy watch. Chilling Adventures is rewatchable because there's so much to take in. So many background details.
Yeah.
So many story items. There's just so much baked into each one that you
Right.
have to watch it again.
There's the setting and atmosphere is night and day different. Like original Sabrina the Teenage Witch is primarily set in any 90s house
Yep.
that has an exterior that looks kind of like a Victorian.
Mm-hmm.
But really the interiors where all of the action takes place.
It's just a big house.
And it's a big house, so it's like any 90s sitcom.
Yep.
Although I do love the exposed brick kitchen. I think that's beautiful.
Oh my god, that kitchen! We could
holy
do a whole
shit.
episode just on that.
I
one.
know. That's like the
The
best.
special pantry,
Right?
All the magic items, and then they let the cat sit on the cutting board.
Right, which is gross. I would never let my cat sit on my cutting board, putting its full-on asshole where I put cut meat.
You're like, no, yeah, that's fine. I don't care about
It's
cleanliness.
magic. We can just. I guess they could just magic it. Clean
That's
if
true. They
wanted.
just magic his butthole clean.
Right, immediately. Sabrina's room, very different.
Oh my god, huge.
Huge. Although that like alcove with the stained glass
All in.
is beautiful because I guess her room is part of that Victorian tower
Which,
attached to it.
Oddly enough, like Clarissa's room, she always has a central window. I didn't think about that until literally sitting here right now.
Oh yeah, you're right. Her home and Clarissa Explains It All also had one of those
It's
weird
just
towers
flipped.
attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird.
Huh.
No stained glass, just like it had like a hexagonal window, I think, in it that swung out in
Yep, the
Clarissa.
big window that well shit, what's his name? The
Her
boyfriend used to
teenage
come in and-
boyfriend that wanted
no,
to-
we're just friends. Sure you are.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just sneak into my daughter's house to study, I
Yeah.
bet.
No, yeah, there's an N64 in there. Fucking idiot.
So that's funny. I wouldn't have thought of that either. It's very similar interior. A lot of the action in this show takes place in the dining room,
Yeah.
and Sabrina's room specifically. Whereas in the Spellman mortuary, obviously, first of all, it's a fucking mortuary.
Right.
So a lot of the action does take place in the embalming room, but also in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in the dining room area.
So they keep a
But-
lot of parallels to it. Like,
Yeah.
it's still supposed to feel family. And I think,
Yeah,
like,
and it does.
nothing is more family than the kitchen. I
Right.
don't care who, whatever. Like, unless you had a weird, like, different kind of family background, for the most part, the traditional family feeling is mapped to the kitchen.
Right.
You've got the food, you've got the act of breaking bread together
Yeah.
always is going to elicit that kind of response.
Right.
So the fact that that's a central thing in both of them is really telling.
Yeah. And obviously the writers of the Chilling Adventures had done their homework because there's tons of similarities between the two and also plot points too.
Oh, for sure.
Like even in the first 5 episodes, you can see analogs to like first run Sabrina,
Yeah.
or Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. But let's talk about the magic before we go into that.
Sure.
So, as you understand it, in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, what are the rules of magic, so to speak?
So there are particular rules, but just from a high level,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at Sabrina, this is a very big difference. She doesn't need to learn the magic per se. She
Right.
needs to learn the finesse of it.
Right,
So she can do it. It's very much just like point and click magic.
right,
You know what I mean? Anybody can use clip art, but you take time to learn to use clip art well.
Right.
And it probably means not using clip art.
right.
But you get the idea.
So she's learning to finesse the magic in original or in new?
Original.
Yes.
So in the new one, she's very much like, you have to learn the spells, you have to learn like all of the small pieces behind it, and like what it's
Right.
doing metaphysically. Like new Sabrina or original Sabrina, like in the very first episode, she just looked at her and said, "Turn the apple into a pineapple. Just think it and do it."
And then it does.
Right.
And then, so one of the things that I like about new Sabrina personally is that it seems to be there has to be like I don't know if you've ever watched Full Metal Alchemist or not. Well, there's a law of equivalent exchange, which is like essentially what is given must be given back in like or comparable. You have to
Okay.
give something comparable to get something comparable.
Interesting.
That's it's kind of like an occult theme, but it's
Yeah.
the best illustration I can think of in pop culture is the Full Metal Alchemist because a lot of people know that one, and I'm sure our audience.
oh
would be
yeah,
like,
no,
oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
spot on. I realize
Yeah.
I'm the outlier.
That's
here.
okay. That's fine.
Dan
Dan
and
would have really.
Ethan. I was gonna say Dan and Ethan are nodding like crazy. And they,
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's also kind of in the same vein of Harry Potter magic, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
You can't just magic something into existence.
Like you can
Like-
multiply stuff or whatever, but you can't just make
You
food.
can't just yeah, exactly. And in Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the magic is much more limited
Mm-hmm.
by the performative act buy the ingredients
You
used
need the
in
pieces.
it.
It's like
Exactly.
best example. It's playing D&D with or without the spell components.
Exactly. If you don't have the components, the spell's not going to work. If you don't do the incantation right, the spell's not going to work. The spell's not going to do something crazy
Yeah.
and unforeseen unless you do it wrong.
Right.
And also it's not like the end all be all. It's like an augment to reality unless you have multiple people focusing in on it. Then you can do something crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
And or Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the magic seems completely unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing that limits it, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
The magic can produce food,
Mm-hmm.
as we have seen. It can transmute.
Very easily.
Yeah, it can change the human body. It can make.
Like she makes the girl with just a blink turns Libby into a pineapple because that's all she knows how to do at this point.
Right, which is very weird and funny. It can change the rules of physics
Yep.
altogether. It can pretty much do anything, except for
Like the
time
big
travel,
laws,
it
they
can-
tell us time travel
Yeah.
takes, like they have to go to the Witches' Council for it.
which
like,
is fucking run by Penn Jillette of all people.
why wouldn't it be? Let's
Why
be
not?
real.
Yeah.
Who would run it now? Chris
David
Angel?
Blaine.
David Blaine. They would both be on the council and they'd both just fucking hate each other.
Yeah, that would be so funny.
That would
if
be really
David
funny to
Blaine
watch.
Was actually on that.
Like David Copperfield probably.
Yeah.
It would be the three of them.
Right.
With Copperfield being the old one, like the wizened one,
Yeah,
which is weird to think of as well
Right.
from a 90s perspective. But
but I want him
Yeah.
to play like kind of like that, the effeminate male character from Coven, like like him.
Yes.
Who was
I'm in.
one of my favorite parts of all of Coven was that guy.
I like that.
And also the redheaded one as well. Oh my god, she was beautiful and
Oh,
phenomenal.
yeah.
I forgot what her name was, but anyway, this isn't Coven cast. This is Sabrina cast. So rules of magic, pretty much fair game to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And original.
Like as long as it's not going to pretty much fuck up like major things like alchemy we'll get into in a second, but
Right.
alchemy, time, like the kind of really big things, it's not really accessible to Sabrina.
Right. And-
Otherwise, go for it.
yeah, and don't meddle in the lives of mortals.
Yep.
Too much. A little
Which
bit's fine.
Very much
Yeah.
that main theme is, I mean, obviously that's a magic thing no matter what. Harry
Right.
Potter, like you name it,
Exactly.
it's always keep magic in magic.
Right.
Which now that I say that out loud sounds very Make America Great Again, but that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing.
Yeah, we're not meaning it in any white nationalist way. We just think that magic should not be given to mortals.
I'm just saying they're not like us.
Exactly.
They don't get magic. We're
they're not
magic. They don't- yeah.
Full blood.
I don't want any of those halfy witches. None of it. Get that shit out of here. In fact, we'll build a wall around the magic school.
Right.
And that's just, it's not because, like, I have no problem with them. It's just, we go
A lot of
here.
my friends are not.
Yeah, I
magic.
have tons of, no mages. We call them magi-morons, but, whatever. That's not a derogatory thing. They just
would
are
get
too
it if you were
stupid
in-
to know how to do magic. And that's fine. That's how Satan made them.
We need to look. We're always going to need people to dig ditches.
We need
all right?
non-magical.
And
Like,
that's
sure, I
what
can
our
just
non-magical
point
people are.
and magic a ditch. That's they need to learn how to do it for themselves.
They got to pull themselves up.
I
by their
was
bootstraps.
literally just saying
God, people that think like that in the real world
the
are
worst.
worst.
Look, my uncle came here with $5 in his pocket, got a little help, and now he pulled himself up. You
get no help.
no help, but here's extra bootstraps. I don't know how
Good
many
luck.
straps you need on your boots, but pull yourself up by 'em.
Maybe you can hang yourself.
Hang yourself by your bootstraps.
Oh God! Well, that got dark.
Sure
so
did.
let's talk about
So,
something not
magic.
dark. Magic and Sabrina, and also let's just because I know we're kind of running out of time here. Let's do a quick little recap of those first 5 episodes to see
Sure.
if we can get our fans' appetites whetted a little bit for this great content here.
Dripping with appetite.
Oh, just an hors d'oeuvre of original Sabrina. So episode 1, pilot episode, obviously. We get brought into the realm of the world where Sabrina is identified as a witch.
Yep.
In like fucking 2 minutes. Just bam, witch. This is the point of this show right now. She is levitating. her family is like, "Yep, Sabrina, you are a witch. Happy
Here's a
16th
book with your
birthday."
dad in it.
Yep.
And she's like, well, this is a cool trick. And they're like, not a trick.
Not a trick.
She's
You
like,
are
"Oh, whatever. Going to school.
don't do witch stuff at school.
What?
Watch
Nothing.
me.
Enjoy your day.
So that episode pretty much sets the tone of the universe. You've got them explaining a little bit about the world. Obviously, there's a witches' council that runs in the background. Obviously, young witches can't do magic right off the bat. Her spells aren't super permanent. You see her transform her bully into a pineapple, which is hilarious.
Oh, one of the
Which
best.
Zelda immediately goes to cut up. Or excuse me,
That's
Hilda
fine.
goes to
Hilda,
cut up.
like
Yeah.
Hilda plays the chaotic one, honestly. She's like, well, what are we going to do? And she goes, well, that's fine. I got it. Do you
We'll make
want
us-
wedges or squares?
Yes, let's make it into a smoothie.
And
Was-
then Zelda's like, no.
No, we don't do that.
We can undo this. And she's like, I guess. if you wanna."
Some of the other themes that are brought up in here that are also comparable to the new series. There's a witches' council.
Mhm.
We have that in the new series as well. But in the new series we have an anti-pope that is
Of
the
course.
head of that.
Not to be confused with aunties,
Right.
like she has.
Exactly.
The non-pope. The backwards pope.
the reverse pope.
This pope doesn't molest children.
Right.
He's the anti-pope.
That's terrible.
So
It's so good. So yes, we have the non-molesto pope running the Church of Satan, and in the original series we have the Witches' Council, which is 3 seemingly powerful witches, 2 of which are Penn Jillette and Teller,
And
whatever
Teller.
that guy's name
He's
is.
still quiet.
And for whatever reason, they're in this show too. That's bizarre to me. They seem to make all of the major decisions governing which kind, and they do it in sort of like an oligarchy.
Yeah,
Or-
very, very much just like, do I feel like it? Yes or no?
Right. Like, do I feel like this is violating the rules of time
Yeah.
and space? Yeah, but we'll let this one slide.
Yeah, but I really got a thing for your aunt, so whatever.
Yeah, so who gives a shit, right?
I'll roll it back. Catch that football, girl.
Right. So the big crux of this episode is whether or not Sabrina can be granted the ability to time travel,
Yeah.
which is just
It's really big for day one.
right. A lot of things going on day one.
Hey, I
here.
just became a witch and I fucked everything up. Can you undo it for me? No!
no.
All
well,
right, yeah.
Well, maybe. When we said no, we meant like
Not right now.
not in the moment, but like we thought about it and like
And then it
yeah,
just
that's-
happened
that's
around
fine.
you.
All in all, for me, it gives you a pretty good intro to the show.
Mhm.
It really raises a lot of questions about how magic actually works in universe, which seems to be able to generate something out of nothing.
And honestly, they don't really answer it, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
It wasn't like I would normally not be the guy to give that answer. Usually I'm
Right.
very much like, look, if you're going to make a show, give me a little bit of the explanation. Just give me some of the rules of engagement, and then we
Right.
can kind of go from there.
there's not really any rules of engagement other
Not
than
really.
like don't fuck around with it, and
Yep.
or you'll get turned into a cat like Salem,
Right.
which is a
I'm
weird
okay.
punishment, which I might be okay with.
Depends on where you go.
Yeah, and who's taking care
Yeah,
of
you're
you?
going to Darla's house. Like, no, I'm sorry. I'll be good.
Yeah, for the pilot of the series, how did it leave you feeling?
Strong, honestly. Like, for a
Really?
pilot, I surprisingly was like, okay, I'm into watching more. Because there's some shows I've gone back to rewatch, and I've kind of been like, okay, I might get through an episode or two, and I'm like, whatever, I'll come back to it eventually. But this one, like, from the pilot, I was kind of like, this is fun. I enjoyed it.
For me, I was thinking it was kind of a slog to get through the pilot. Like I really did not enjoy it. I came to enjoy the show,
Right.
as I got through the next couple episodes. But for the show that's supposed to be the attention getter that gets me hooked, line, and sinkered into it, didn't really do it for me. I mostly watched it as an assignment.
Fair.
But I'm glad that I did. I don't. But these are just two conflicting opinions.
Yeah.
Take this for yourself. Go watch the fucking thing. It's 22
We'll talk
minutes.
about it.
Right?
If you don't have 22 minutes to waste, then why are you listening to this show? It's
This
been an
shit-
hour already.
we spent an hour talking about fucking a show from 1996 and how it compares to a show from last year.
We're at peak internet, everybody.
That's right. Everybody's got an opinion, and we've got ours specifically on Sabrina Spellman.
Doesn't matter what form she takes. No, I think it grows a
Yeah.
lot. But I think as far as the pilot goes, I don't know if it was a brand new show, how much it would have hooked me. But rewatching it hit enough of my boxes
Yeah.
to say I remember and like it enough that I'm excited to keep going.
It does a pretty good job of explaining the overall universe.
Yeah.
And it's good for nominal rule setting, but that does get explored later.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But for, if you've got 22 to 28 minutes, that's
You're
not a
pretty
lot
limited.
of time.
Yeah.
So you can't go into super crazy detail.
So episode 2 then,
Yep.
we're looking at the Truth Sprinkles episode.
Yes, Truth Sprinkles, hilarious episode.
So well done.
Yeah, this one for me was the hooking episode.
Okay.
Because I really liked the way that magic worked in this one. Because you got like the main crux of this episode is Sabrina. I forget the guy's name, but she gets introduced to a classmate who is looking to get a magic assistant. And what I find hilarious about this is the motivating factor is that she cannot summon a designer brand of roller skates.
Roller blahs.
She gets roller blahs. And Hilda and Zelda explain to her that you cannot create copywritten things from magic.
And I think that is the funniest fourth wall break that I didn't see coming. Because usually, like, you can kind of tell when they're about to kind of hand wave something away.
Right.
This was very overtly, like, they just stared into the camera and they're like, I know we can't do this, lawyers, so watch us make it funny.
Right. And which is even funnier because the only thing that can govern magic at this point in time is fucking Penn Jillette.
Oh, wait, hang on. This is episode 3. Yeah, episode 2 is Truth Sprinkles. Episode 3 is Babysitting Roller Blahs.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got those mixed up.
No
Truth
worries. I
Sprinkles-
was completely into it.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Well, let's just keep on this.
We
Van. Who
get the
gives a
idea.
fuck?
Yeah, Truth Sprinkles, long story short, you sprinkle on people's food, they tell you the truth.
Right.
Hilarity ensues.
Exactly.
The bully that was spreading rumors about her no longer does because Sabrina gets her to admit that she's a size 5, not a size 3.
Exactly.
Take that, bitch.
It's a weird teenage bullying episode for True Sprinkles. A lot of bunt cake humor.
Yeah.
A lot of butt jokes with that.
Put the bunt in your mouth.
Laugh track. Laugh track is painful always, even though it's obviously in front of a live studio audience. And the Truth Sprinkles episode made me realize that my home ec experience
Nothing
and
like
Sabrina's
that.
home ec experience night and day.
Yeah.
Mine was horrible and stupid.
Mine was like, you have to learn how to sew a button. You have to do this. I was like, are we going to cook? And she looked at me like, no.
No, we're gonna make Kraft mac and cheese.
Just like you will at home when you're 30.
Exactly, which is right. So thanks, Miss Waldron. I really appreciate it.
I think the only big thing that sticks from episode 2 is that we find, like, because in the first episode, she's like, Harvey's fun, he's cute, I want to be his friend.
Right.
This one, she overtly says to him, because she thinks she's under the influence of the Truth Sprinkles, I find you cute, I like your sideburns, and her friend realizes she does not have Harvey in her heart. So you see, now we've really got the trio solidified,
Right.
where there's no longer the competition between Jenny and
Right.
Sabrina. They're just good friends. And then also the Harvey thing is just Sabrina Harvey. So now we're set and they're like, now you understand what's going on. Pick up from here.
Exactly. Episode 2 really dials into Harvey
Yep.
a lot, and you get to see that he's not just the jock character on
He has
here.
a lot of heart.
He has a lot of heart. He likes cooking,
Mhm.
which he admits, and that's not in the 90s, not a masculine thing to do.
No,
Now,
not at all.
Obviously,
He's like, well, I like more than football. I
Yeah.
also like to cook.
that for the time would have been like, oh wow, he's sensitive.
Oh, look at Harvey.
Look at that.
He can make me
And-
Kraft mac and cheese.
I think that the best thing that episode teaches is the fact that Hilda and Zelda give her the truth sprinkles to take for herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
'Cause they just gave her fucking sprinkles, and they got her to admit
So
what
good.
she wanted.
Yep.
And they explained to her that magic is not the best way to figuring out what you actually want. You need to figure that out for your fucking self, Sabrina.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like that lesson is
That was pure Hilda Zelda all day.
Exactly. And that's a really good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And it's very touching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also very applicable to really anybody.
I think so.
You got to know what you want. And being honest with yourself about what you want is very important. So that's a really good TV PSA. So,
I think that's what made this more Full House than Riverdale.
Yeah, exactly. Because Riverdale is more like drama, shock.
Drama.
whatever.
Look how hot Betty Cooper is. I
Yeah,
get it. I've
I get
always
it.
liked her.
Everybody gets it.
Cole Sprouse is so cute.
Right.
Fuck you, Dylan.
Episode 3 is the one that I had transposed with episode 2. This is
Mm-hmm.
the Magician's Assistant episode, going into the fact that magic constraint by copyright law,
Yep.
constrained by only Penn Jillette's interpretation of magical law.
He's like, I don't know. They didn't protect their trademark, so you can make Kleenexes. I don't
guess
care.
so. Like the Kleenex, as everybody calls them that's fine.
Bibbidi bobbidi Xerox. Like, yeah, whatever. I
Yeah.
guess we all call it Xerox.
Yeah, you can
and
make a
stuff.
Xerox machine, I guess, but no Nikes.
No, you can
No.
have Nix. You can have Popsy. You can
You
have
have the Yoo-hoo pun
Yoo-hoo,
in this.
Hey, you over there. That
Oh, yeah.
absolutely made me die.
That is fucking fantastic. The whole episode centers around like what is right with it. What can we do with magic? And the fucking babysitting thing
Hilarious.
is just frightening.
Oh, very, very
Just
frightening.
Fucking frightening.
My biggest problem with it was that kid clearly could not walk, talk, nothing beforehand. Then he just becomes bigger / older, and now he's like stupid. So like he knows like la 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 la
Right.
la. Like, you didn't do that before. Why are you doing that now? You wouldn't have known that. Just keep your mouth shut and be a big dumb baby.
It's super creepy too.
Really creepy.
Like, because also like that grown man would have been nude in this crib.
and she
And
references it.
Yeah, and she had to clothe him.
Yeah, she like looks at him. And he's like going to stand up. She's like, I would sit there till you're dressed.
Yeah, but how's the baby know how to get dressed? It doesn't.
Who knows?
Who knows? I don't
Sabrina
think
saw that weird baby thing.
that nude baby man. That
Giant
was probably the first nude male that Sabrina Spellman has ever seen.
I hate it.
And that is horrible because she is 16 years old. But I guess this is what happens when you dabble with magic,
Right.
everybody.
You play with magic, you're going to get the horn.
You're going to transmorph a man into a
Bigger man.
giant man. Man, I just really wanted to talk about that fucking Magician's Assistant episode, didn't I? Because I kept trying to push that one forward in the timeline. I'm guessing that's my favorite episode.
It's a really good episode.
Because the babysitting episode is the one that we were just talking about. I really fucked up this whole timeline. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You guys will get it when you rewatch it, because if you watch all 5 of these, it's an hour and a half.
Exactly.
Just shut up.
And you'll like me, will forget what order they were played in.
Because
Want to
it's
talk-
easy to in the beginning.
Exactly.
She's
There's-
just learning main lessons at this point. These are
Right.
the Lego bricks. Put them in whatever order. As long as you know she's a witch, keep doing things.
Exactly.
So Magician's Assistant is 4th?
4th episode.
There we
Man,
go.
I really shoehorned that one into the beginning. I guess for me it was like low watermark pilot, high watermark Magician's Assistant episode.
Yeah, the Magician's Assistant and Halloween are probably the 2 big ones.
Yeah, Halloween was again one of my favorite ones.
So we'll talk about Magician's Assistant, and then we'll go to Halloween.
Yeah, exactly.
So please.
I think I've talked about it enough already. Obviously, she needs a job because of the whole copyright infringement thing that gets brought up in episode 3 about babysitting, because you can't do things that have a brand to them. So in this episode, she needs to remedy that by getting a job.
Right.
Babysitting didn't work out. So
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to make any more big babies.
exactly. That was creepy. I saw a grown man nude.
He went to talk to my teacher. He thought my dad was an idiot,
He thought my dad was like mentally handicapped.
which is fine because it's 1996.
yeah, and that's absolutely okay.
Yeah,
because
Mr. Poole could think whatever he wants.
because it's like the heyday of Adam Sandler humor. Mr. Poole, by the way, fantastic character.
He really is.
Absolutely love Mr. Poole.
Not a heartless character, but just enough like that just overworked, burnt out teenagerness.
Like
Not teenager,
Teacher,
teacherness.
like doesn't give a shit, is burned out. No, he's not paid enough.
Yep.
But is still in the game for the kids.
Absolutely.
Good character overall.
Yeah, he's in for the knowledge.
Yeah. Really like him. He reminds me a lot of most teachers that I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Magician's Assistant, which I can only assume is an unpaid job,
Gotta be.
obviously because he is a
Teenage
teenager.
magician.
Yeah. I think she's mostly doing this to minimize her free time in an effort to maximize the amount of time that Harvey wants to spend with her.
True.
Because Hilda and Zelda tell her to not be so available for him.
Yeah.
Which is actually great advice.
It is.
And if anybody of you are salespeople out here, that works really well on customers too.
Ignore an email a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be too available.
No.
Yeah, I bet you weren't thinking you get business advice on here, but I guess you just did.
You're listening to Planet Money by
Thank
NPR.
So she does this as a way of getting Harvey to notice her, which totally works.
Yeah, he's in.
But conversely, makes this dude naked and invisible.
Woof.
Weird. And then
Way
he
to
goes.
go, Brina.
Then he goes and stalks all the chicks in the locker room, which is funny 80s 90s trope.
Oh, absolutely.
That was in a lot of things.
This is the Bermuda Triangle
Right?
of teenage TV.
And then like I don't know why it was so popular. Like
You
to be
don't?
like, well, like, obviously it's like somebody looking at
He's,
naked
all right,
people.
obviously I do. I
All
want
right,
to
I
look
get
in a locker room as much as the next guy.
Right.
That's 16.
Exactly. Teenager.
now.
Teenager Nick
Teenage
speaking
Nick,
there.
teenage Brett, we're
Right.
in. Now, I don't need to. I just go into my own locker room.
Exactly. I look at myself.
Mighty fine dong you have there, sir.
Nice. But that was a pretty well used trope.
It really
in most
was.
TV. It's
like even kids' TV. Like I distinctly remember stuff in the Fairly Odd Parents where he's like, "Oh, I'm invisible. I can go to the locker room," and Wanda's like, "No, you can't."
Yep. That's like the first place teenage boys go with this.
Stupid.
And that's like the first place high school drama writers go.
You go to Stacy's mom's house.
Exactly.
Fountains
because
of Wayne taught me that.
She has it going on.
all
right?
over the place.
Exactly. Sabrina has to go hunt down this creep who was mad that she didn't want to date him because I guess men get mad when you tell them no.
Who the fuck, huh?
Yeah, right? Just get over it. Fuck.
Man,
And
we're known for being even keeled.
right? So in a display of actual pretty good like come to grips
Yeah,
with the
good
situation.
sportsmanship, I'd
Once
say.
she talks to him about it, he's like, "Oh, but we can still be friends, right?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, obviously, we're in school together."
Right.
And it doesn't end in like some horrible, creepy incel behavior that would happen now.
Take note, 4chan.
Yes, take note. This kid really liked magic, but he didn't go crazy.
Like magic, like boobies, didn't like killing people. The trifecta.
Fantastic. Love it. She remedies his problem by spraying him with magic talcum powder.
Too
Which
true.
is great solve.
Just like my grandmother does.
Yep.
Put some baby powder on it. Okay, if you say
Exactly.
so.
And we also where did we miss this? There was one that we missed also where the themes were messing with mortals because she gave people the things that they wanted. Forget where that one is. Anyway,
Yeah.
theme of the episode. She gives Harvey the ability to start on the football team. She gives
Oh, right.
what does she give? She gives Mr. Poole the ability to
He wins the lottery, doesn't he? Or
he
something
learns
like
the
that?
alchemical formula to creating gold.
That's what it is.
And I think there's a third one in there. I think Jenny is the one that she grants the wish to. But anyway,
Yeah.
the whole episode's about like not interfering with mortals.
Yep.
And the thing about this episode that just cracks me the fuck up is that it goes horribly wrong for the other two, but Mr. Poole is like
By far off the deep end.
he goes off the deep end, but he doesn't go like too far off the deep end. Like he doesn't quit his job.
Enough, yeah.
He's like,
He's still
money has
reasonable.
solved my problems.
He's like, now I work here because I like to.
Yep. And
Also, I drove a Ferrari to work today.
exactly, which is very, very funny to me. I just can't get over the fact that again Penn Jillette has to be the one that says that is the one that's against the rules because giving mortals the rules of alchemy was decidedly not okay in the magic world.
Nope, can't ruin their economies.
Exactly, which is again magic being limited by capitalism.
As everything else
universe.
always is.
Yes, because even in our fantastical reality, capitalism has to ruin it because copyright law and not breaking the non-magic economy. There's the two things
That is the most 90s thing I've ever heard.
Thank you, Bill Clinton.
Yeah, Bill Clinton's like, well, I wouldn't do that. Don't want to mess up this economy.
It's too fucking good. And
He goes like just shy of full Walter White.
right?
And that's probably my favorite part about it.
That he is with his ability to create gold, like not evil Walter White because he doesn't like fuck off and become a meth dealer. He just one of the things that I think is hilarious about this is I wonder if the writers of Breaking Bad saw this episode of Sabrina and were
And they're
like,
just like, oh.
what if instead of magic changing
He
someone's
had magic
What-
supercells that were killing him from the inside.
What
And
is that
somebody else is
called?
like, cancer?
Cancer. That's the one. So what if he had cancer and he didn't discover magic,
He
but he discovered
meth.
methamphetamine? And they were like, we got ourselves a show here, gentlemen.
Buckle up, AMC, because here we come.
if this is nonsense to you guys, watch these episodes.
Yeah, you'll see.
You're going to see these parallels, and you're going to see
It's right there.
It's right in front of you too.
I was waiting, honestly, to flip through IMDb and find out that episode was directed by Vince Gilligan. And I was like, oh, well, there we go.
The first 5 solid.
Oh, yeah.
The ending of the first 5 is very touching.
Yep.
And if we were to never pick up the original series again, it would be a good place to end it anyway.
Yeah.
Without going to the very end of the series.
We're going to.
But
Because we have to beat everything into the ground.
exactly, because
As
that's-
evidenced by this episode.
Yeah, this is episode 4 of Sabrina Cast. You guys love this. Our numbers actually say these are some of our most popular episodes.
It sure does. So keep downloading and keep sending us those tweets.
Exactly, because you know what? The thing that makes us, Brett and Nick, happiest is when our Sabrina episodes do well.
And Dan screams at
and
us.
Dan is like, what the fuck? I don't understand. And Victor's like, I don't really get it either, but he still has to edit it.
Yep.
And Ethan is just amused because he actually likes these
He does.
episodes. But the ending of the first 5 of our rewatch,
So-
Halloween,
Yeah, Halloween.
which is fantastic, heartwarming. They say that they do not celebrate Thanksgiving because of Puritans.
Right.
Hilarious, because Puritans obviously persecuted witches.
Which
So
is
they-
hilarious to me. That is the most Chilling Adventures-esque thing of the
Right.
of the original series.
It's like the one like callback or call forward.
yeah, the
I
one
guess.
they're like, you'll see.
Oh, just you wait until 2018.
2018. It's gonna be big. For
Big
witches.
year for Sabrina. But they celebrate Halloween in lieu of Thanksgiving, and it's very touching.
Big meal, the whole
big
nine.
meal, exactly. They they go to the magic realm for this one to
They
be with
do.
family.
Yep.
Yeah, and
They meet that bitchy cousin.
Marigold, however she is tangentially
Somehow.
related to them, and her shit bag of a kid who
Ugh.
has no boundaries set.
That was the most effective birth control I've ever used.
The subpart plot of that episode is the party at Harvey's house,
So she makes the clone of herself for this one.
which is an episode of Chilling Adventures, by the way, with the Mandrake.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting,
Yep.
right? The body double is a first 5 episode old and also an episode of new. So you can check that one out in the new series and be like, I bet they watched this and thought, how do we make that happen again?
Especially because it was so, I don't know, it had a lot of impact, like socially for Sabrina.
Right.
Especially because it was so limited.
Right.
She's like, it can literally say 3 things and kind of do stuff.
I feel like she did a pretty good job with the 3 things.
I'd say so. Initially, when I watched it, I was like, that's stupid. That's what you chose.
Right.
And then I was like, she's doing it. I was like, shit, that's smart.
Yeah.
It's
It
just
is-
vague enough.
It's generic and vague enough to actually work. And if you weren't paying attention to a conversation, it
Sure.
would fly. You know what was very funny about that subplot? And it was really the only funny thing was that all those high school guys were dressed as James Dean.
They
Did
sure
you
were.
notice? And
Yep.
and it was never once addressed
Not at all.
that was happening. And like obviously because that is the easiest fucking costume to make.
Right, because that's how I dress most days. Bomber jacket, white t-shirt, jeans, and boots.
Done. Easy. It's worked for him,
Yep.
works for us. But the rest of the episode is just kind of like expounding on their expanded family,
Yeah.
which is nice to kind of get to see that. The most touching part of it, though, is the exchanging of gifts in
Yes.
Halloween. And she gets the ability to pick somebody that has been deceased to spend 30 minutes with.
And it's anybody. It's not like they have a whole lot of rules for it. They're like, literally pick anybody deceased. You get your 30 minutes to just hang out with them.
She could have picked greatest hits like James Dean,
Yeah, which every boy in school wanted to be.
which apparently Jesus Christ, Adolf Hitler,
Famed magician himself.
anybody's on the table here. But she chooses instead her grandmother.
Yep.
Which is so nice. And in the universe, her grandmother has recently passed away. So this isn't even like a, she lives with the Spellman sisters because her grandmother has passed away, I believe.
I think it's a combo of like
Yeah.
that and because of the witch thing.
Yeah, because her mother can't be around.
Right.
And her father is like off doing
Witch
witch
stuff.
stuff. But
Stuff being the supreme mugwump.
yep. So she summons the shade of her grandmother to tell her that everything is okay.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really nice and touching
Absolutely.
scene. And the worst part of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is when they summon the shade of her mother.
And she's just like useless.
Yeah, and it's like the most not touching thing that could have ever happened because it's like
Dumb.
really dumb. And you could really give some good background exposition.
Yeah.
And I think that in this, Sabrina talking to her grandmother really underscores how much of a good person she is
Absolutely.
and makes you like her even more.
She's incredibly, full of heart. That's the biggest thing. If there's any way I can sum up the original series, is that it just is a non-threatening take on magic.
Yep.
And it's got tons of heart.
Exactly. It's not spooky.
Yep.
But it's a feel-gooder.
Yeah.
And it's very funny in its own dated way. And a lot of the jokes can sometimes carry through, especially the Salem jokes.
Always.
Pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
Hilda, pretty fucking funny.
Mm-hmm.
And not just in like, that was all right, 90s humor kind of way.
No, like I LOL'd.
I laugh out loud also.
I had lots of loved all over the place.
Any other big takeaways from the original 5?
I think we've probably hit on all my favorite things.
Yeah.
Like just what she is as a character, how they interplay with each other, and what magic means to it.
Right.
For me, those first 5 set me up enough to watch another like 20 more episodes after I rewatched it.
Exactly. It sets the ground rules for everything. You get a really good idea of who the characters are. I like Harvey infinitely more in the original.
Much more.
He is a non-character terrible in the current run of Chilling Adventures.
Yep.
Harvey
exists in Chilling Adventures just to be Harvey.
Exactly.
And it's not like, to me, he didn't he could have been named anything. If they had named him Chad, I would have gone, okay.
Okay, whatever. That's her stupid boyfriend.
Yeah.
Go date the Warlock guy. He's way hotter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just because his name is Nick and I can use the audio later on.
Do you like one of the other Sabrinas more or less, or differently?
I like them differently for sure.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to choose one, it would be Melissa Joan Hart.
Really?
Yeah, just I don't know what it is. Probably nostalgia primarily. It's just easier for me to attach onto that one. Like all of those same feelings rush right back to me. And Kiernan Shipka does a phenomenal job, and I love Chilling Adventures.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose a Sabrina, it would be original.
If I had to choose one, I would pick Kiernan Shipka.
This is good radio.
Yeah, I personally would, because I like the strong-headed, willed nature of her.
Yeah.
I like the not afraid to cause conflict.
Not at all.
I think that she is a fucking kick-ass character. And she makes fumbles and mistakes.
But she's supposed
she
to.
owns them
Yeah.
every single time.
She's like, yeah, I did it.
She's like, I did it. It was my fault.
Let's go fix it.
She's powerful as hell. And I get that Sabrina in the original series is powerful.
Mhm.
It's just if I could only pick one, I would pick that one.
Oh, that's fair.
Hilda Zelda, old to new.
I'm probably going to skew original
Yeah.
on everything.
Really?
I don't know why,
Wow.
but like I like Sam.
You really like this shit.
I really do. Like I didn't realize how much I watched. I had actually asked my mom after the first time I rewatched it recently.
Yeah.
I just like brought it up. I was like, "Did I watch it a lot?" And she goes, "Yeah, all the time." She's like, "You always had it on." She's like, "Even if you weren't intently watching it,
Like it was
she's like,
background
yeah,
noise.
it was background noise." She's like, "So you might be playing with Lego or something and watching it,
Right.
or doing homework and you had it on in the background or something."
Right.
She's like, "You always loved magic." She goes, "Harry Potter, whatever it was." She goes,
Right.
"You were always into magic." She's like, "But I specifically remember if Melissa Joan Hart was on it, you probably watched it." And I was like, fair.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So you're, I would kind of agree with you on that. I think that the familial relationship that Hilda Zelda have in the original series, much more touching.
Yep.
If I was to pick who I would rather have to be my sister aunts,
Yeah.
it would be the original Hilda Zelda combo.
Mhm.
But if I had to pick, I would still think I would choose original or new Hilda only. out of
Oh,
everyone.
interesting. Like if you had to pick one of the four.
Yeah.
New Hilda is very cool.
If I had to pick my aunt out of all four of them,
Mm-hmm.
New Hilda would be my aunt.
It would
And
probably be a toss-up for me between New Hilda and Original Zelda.
I get that. Yeah, I think for me it would be New Hilda, Original Zelda,
Kieran Shipka.
Kieran.
Original Salem
Yep, Original Salem.
as a puppet.
Salem v. Ambrose. Because there's no, like, he's the closest analog.
Yeah. Ambrose is something else, man.
I know.
I love Ambrose.
Yeah. If
And
you could.
doesn't make a whole lot of missteps
No,
other than blowing up the Vatican.
of course.
But I mean, overall, I might choose Salem because the idea of familiar is really fun.
Right.
But he's not. At the end of the day, like Original Salem would eventually revert to being a witch.
Right.
So probably Ambrose.
Yeah. I'm going to pick Ambrose also because I like his humor is more dark and funny to me.
Oh, for sure.
His advice is better
Yep.
and he's mischievous, but he's not.
He's not trying to
That-
watch the world burn for Sabrina.
Exactly. Which is what kind of Salem plays. in
Yeah,
there.
Salem's like, I'm a cat and I'm bored. I've been stuck here. Yeah,
Right.
go make some shit happen.
And if you had to kill one or the other,
Original Harvey wins. Always. Didn't even need the sentence finished.
kill New Harvey.
Kill New Harvey.
Leave Original Harvey. If you had to kill Penn Jillette or Father Blackwood, who would it be?
Blackwood.
Blackwood still,
Yeah.
even though I fucking hate Penn
Yeah.
Jillette.
Like, I would kill Penn Jillette over Father Blackwood.
I would kill both if I could line them up.
If I could line him up and just through the neck. Yeah, no, Father Blackwood's going
Yep.
down. Like, Penn Jillette is a shitty guy, but, like,
He's just
fun
annoying.
character, yeah.
He is a fun character,
He's a fun foil.
but I guess he's the closest thing to the bad guy.
Yeah.
So far.
So far, yeah.
So far.
Who knows what we're going to get?
Exactly.
We'll
Well,
find out on Sabrina 5 through 20.
so any last thoughts, final takeaways that you would like our audience to hear?
Yes, if you liked this episode, please, like, I know I say this after every episode, but send us some tweets, send us messages on Patreon, Facebook, whatever. Like, let us know what you think about this, because, I mean, as much as we joke about it, we don't want to make content you don't like, but it seems like you guys like the Sabrina content, and it gives me no greater pleasure than watching Dan walk into the room and say, why the fuck did that episode do so well?
It is so funny to us because they hate it. And we love it so much. I had a blast writing all these notes up about how I felt about a show I had very little nostalgia for.
Yeah.
Beyond it was on TV when I was younger.
Yep.
And I'm glad that I rewatched it.
Me too.
I think my biggest takeaway for our audience is watch the first 5 episodes.
Ow, hands down.
Hands down worth watching. You'll enjoy it. It's a fun little like piece of candy in the
Like,
world.
it's Sunday night. There's no football, so don't
Yep.
give me that excuse.
Exactly.
And if there is football, don't
Right.
care either.
Who cares? No one watches that.
Yeah, this is America, and if it's not America, Bleaches, then I know you don't watch football anyways.
Exactly. That's boring. That's for Chads.
So yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Like, watch the first 5 episodes. You waste an hour and a half.
Worst case
You would
scenario.
already do that watching an episode of Deadwood,
Exactly.
which should also be watched.
Good, but also watch Deadwood.
I'm in the middle of that right now.
Good. But also watch the first 5 episodes of Sabrina.
First Sabrina, then some Deadwood, and then when you need to get the taste out of your mouth, more Sabrina.
More old Sabrina
Yes.
because it's happy,
Happy,
and not
happy.
terrible. And then listen to this again.
Yeah.
See what you think. Because you may disagree with us. You may not think that Salem is new Ambrose.
Yeah.
You may not think that that the characters of Hilton Zelda have been Flanderized. We want to know what your controversial hot takes are.
Oh, I'm all about it.
I can't wait.
Actually, go ahead and just post that as Sabrina Hot Take, hashtag Sabrina Hot Take. Go ahead and shoot that at Twitter, and we will absolutely engage with you, I promise.
Oh, yeah. And believe you me, I'm going to stan Ambrose until well after they kill that character off.
And they tried, damn it.
and they're going to eventually, and I
Yeah.
know it.
There can't be that good of a gay character on TV. I
exactly.
know it.
They've
Actually,
got
a bi character.
Exactly.
We can't minimize that because that's a
Right.
huge thing. Because most characters on TV, not bi. We have
Exactly.
Ambrose, and we have from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. What is her name?
Rosa.
Rosa.
Yep,
Rosa
exactly.
oh my God! Somebody put Rosa and Ambrose together.
Oh God,
I can't
I would
handle it.
ship that relationship
Very
so hard.
So good.
Yeah, and if TV has taught me anything, they are not long for this world. We'll like them while we have them. Well, that was a dark way to end it,
Sure
like we
was.
always do.
That's our game.
Anyway, if you like what we do here and you like nostalgic TV and also occult-centered television and pop culture and also folkloric history, you'll probably like the rest of our catalog as well. Where can they find us, Nick?
You can find us on pretty much any podcast app now. Just make sure, share us with your friends. That's the easiest way to help us grow a little bit and make sure that we can keep making more content like this. But if you want to engage with us on social media, you can find us at GoFolk Podcast on Twitter, at GoFolk Yourself Pod on Instagram, and you can find us on Patreon by searching GoFolk Yourself Podcast.
A little bit of support goes a long way for us to produce weird content like this that is hyper niche for the right person.
Sure
But
is.
guess what? That's why fucking podcasts exist.
Exactly.
And we hope you like what we do here. We like making this stuff.
Absolutely. All day
And
long.
again, can't stress this enough. If this becomes our most popular episode to date, we thank you, the listeners, for spiting the rest of our teammates.
Can't put it any better myself.
Exactly. Well, I think that's all we got for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great evening and continue watching those spooky things, and we'll keep making this spooky shit.